Hello, welcome to
Papi, your favorite movies.
My name is Papi.
And I'm Natalie.
In our podcast, we review and critique my favorite PG-13 movies.
Movies that I wasn't allowed to watch until I turned 13.
Every other week, Natalie and I will watch a new PG-13 movie.
And I'll see if Papi's movies live up to the hype.
Which of course they will.
Today we're going to be watching Look Who's Talking.
Before we begin, there will be spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want it to be spoiled,
press pause and come back when you're finished. Now, Papi, tell me the deets on this movie.
Okay. Look Who's Talking came out in 1989 with a runtime of 1 hour and 33 minutes. Not streaming anywhere. We had to rent it on Amazon. So today we went to St. Vincent de Paul's and found a bunch of DVDs. We're going to start buying a bunch of them because Amazon costs more than St. Vincent de Paul costs to buy them.
Yeah, so we'll own them and not even re-renting, and it'll be cheaper.
Yeah, and then we'll probably give them right back to them. So, it was written and directed by Amy Heckerling. The main stars are John Travolta, Kirstie Alley, and Olympia Dukakis. There were 2 sequels. Part 2 was about Mikey's sister, and Part 3 was about their talking dogs. So what do you think, Nat?
I loved it.
Did you? You enjoyed it?
Yeah, but I still think it's a very controversial movie.
You think the controversial movie, Look
Yes.
Who's Talking is?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, how is it controversial? Oh, before you do that, give me a rating.
Maybe not controversial per se, but a lot of things that wouldn't be made today.
All right. Well, it came out in the 80s, so that makes sense. Well, what do you rate it?
I give it 5 stars.
5 star. Whoa, it's been a minute. A 5-star movie. You thought it was funny, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Watching it again, I thought it would be a little cheesy, but I think Mikey's really cute, and I think John Travolta's great in it. So,
Why don't we get into the recap?
Okay. The movie begins with an egg floating in utero. Molly, an accountant, meets Albert, her client. They've been having an affair, and Molly wants to end it. He tells her that he's leaving his wife. She falls for it, and they become intimate. Then we see sperm in utero looking for the egg. Inappropriate! One hits the mark, and a baby is made. Later, we see Molly throwing up at work. Her friend Rona tells her Albert is a dirty, rotten scoundrel, and Molly should break up with him. Meanwhile, in utero, the baby is forming, and it's a boy named Mikey. Molly talks to her mom, who tells her she should get married. Sadly, Molly's still hung up on Albert. Then her mom asks if there's anything wrong. Later, Molly takes a pregnancy test, and it's positive. She tells Albert that she's pregnant, and he's happy. She tells everyone she was artificially inseminated. That part was kind of weird. Like, why was he happy?
Yeah, like, wouldn't most people that are having an affair and, like, they get someone pregnant, wouldn't they be, like, freaked out, probably run away, like, leave?
Yeah. I guess he never intended to take care of the baby, so I guess he's just happy another baby was born.
He just doesn't care.
Then why be happy about it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, so she tells everybody she's artificially inseminated to kind of keep the secret. After a pregnancy montage, Molly goes to see Albert. He asks her questions about her pregnancy and begins to compare her to Beth, his wife. She gets annoyed and they argue. He tells her he's moving out. She gets excited, but he tells her he wants to be alone. He's not moving out with her. He just wants to move out by himself.
That's kind of weird. Why is he moving out?
Because he's a dirty, rotten scoundrel. He probably wants to meet other girls.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. Later, Rona and Molly go shopping and see Albert making out with another woman in the fitting room. He tells Molly that he's going through a selfish phase. She leaves angrily and begins to have contractions. She calls for a taxi, and a taxi driver named James picks her up.
I think it's funny that they're like, oh, I'm going through a selfish phase. And then everyone is like, oh my gosh. Because now people will literally say that. Like, not related to the movie at all, but they'll be like, oh, I'm going through my selfish phase. Or like they say, like, oh, sometimes you just gotta be selfish.
Like, it's okay?
Yeah.
Like, in this, we see this guy as, like, the worst, right?
Yeah. But people
that.
actually, like, say, like, oh, I'm going through a selfish phase right now. And it's like, oh, wow, good for you. Like, that kind of thing.
Oh, like, people are happy for them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you go. Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's different than, like, maybe a teenager who wants to go through a selfish phase as opposed to a grown man who's having a baby.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe. Anyway, so James picks her up in his taxi. He drives like a maniac through New York to get her to the hospital. When they get there, she hits him a few times and goes inside. At the hospital, James is mistaken for the father and goes into the delivery room. Molly asks for drugs, and the doctor gives her Demerol. She and Mikey both enjoy it quite a bit. Baby time. Mikey is born and comes out screaming and yelling. He finally calms down in Molly's arms.
This is what I was saying about the freshly birthed child. Like, it actually looks freshly birthed.
Right, you were saying that they have laws now that you can't have a baby who's not a certain amount of age?
Like, I think you can't have a baby on the set that's under 3 months old.
Okay.
But that baby looked fresh.
that baby was born on set, you're saying?
Yeah.
They went to a special place to have that baby. Okay.
Like, how did they make him look so fresh?
Maybe he was fresh. It's 1989. They probably had no laws back then. Like, children can work from first day, work 40-hour days, and they don't care. They didn't have laws back then in the 80s. What I like is James is mistaken for the father, and he goes into the living room. He could just leave.
Yeah, why does he stay there?
I don't know. Maybe he's just really fascinated by everything. He's like, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing today. I might as well just deliver a baby. At home, James comes over to return Molly's purse. She had left it in the taxi. Mikey seems to like James. In the movie, we see Mikey talking with another character's voice. So Bruce Willis is the person who does Mikey's voice. He's Corbin Dallas in The Fifth Element. I know you hated that movie. But he was pretty funny in this, and he had a lot of funny lines. And so Mikey talks like an internal monologue that we can hear, but no one else can.
They've had that type of movie before. Like one of those dog movies, like Superbud, how like all the dogs have voices and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's kind of reminded me of that, where like they're not supposed to be talking and no one else in the story can hear them talking, but like you can hear them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fun. Molly asks James to watch Mikey while she gets dressed, and he starts asking her questions. He tries to teach Mikey about coffee and accidentally drinks breast milk. They all have a laugh, even Mikey. At night, Mikey has a wet diaper.
I wonder how they film it. Like, I bet they just leave it in there for hours. But they say their lines, right? And he's supposed to laugh, like, right then. So how do they do that? Like, how do they make it
I think
laugh?
they film the baby, and then they look through the film, and then they make the lines on top of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, here
but
he
the
laughed.
characters, like, say stuff, and he's right there.
So it's cuts, right? It's not like James is holding him, and you see them both talking to each other. The camera's on James. He says something, and then the camera changes to Mikey. It's just a cut.
I thought there were scenes where they were all there.
Probably not. I mean, there'd be times where a little bit, especially when Mikey gets older, maybe. But, I mean, they're always flash cutting everything. Every movie's like that. Now this were even worse. Like, you see a fight scene in, like, 5 seconds long and, like, 9 cuts. Like, it goes back and forth so much. Like, you almost get dizzy by how much cuts there are on TV shows and movies now, so.
Yeah.
But you could always just cut it to make it work the way you want it to, so. We don't do that on the pod. We don't do any cuts. We have no editing at all. It's perfect the way that we do it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. At night, Mikey has a wet diaper and begins to cry. Molly comes in with a warm bottle. Mikey comes to the realization that every time he cries, Molly comes in to take care of him. And then he starts crying a lot. And we see a huge crying montage of Mikey just crying and throwing things around. The part is funny, right?
Yeah, they probably just got a bunch of scenes from the set itself.
Yeah, probably just when the baby had enough. I mean, there's scenes where he's eating and he's just making a mess. I imagine they just gave him lunch every day and then they filmed him. They just put a camera there filming him eating lunch every day and the messes that he made, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just got new wardrobe, change him, make him look new again.
Also, I wonder how many, like, child actors they had to get for this one movie. Because it's from birth to, like, almost being a toddler.
Yeah, there's one baby that was there a lot for the crying montage is the same baby. Mm-hmm. Then the toddler, the older Mikey, who actually starts talking. You can see his lips moving. I think he's old enough to actually say words. And,
but they just mute.
They just mute him, right? He doesn't talk. But you can see his lips moving kind of like he's saying something. But it'll ruin the story if he actually talks.
I bet there's people that have, like, figured out what the babies actually say.
Right, like lip readers or something like that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's the infant. I think the infant was there for, like, one part of the movie. Molly tells Rana that she needs to go out and find a father for Mikey. She goes out on a few dates, and they go terribly. She imagines each date as a father figure for Mikey, and she hates it. Later, Molly goes home and sees James in the lobby. She realizes that he's been taking mail out of her mailbox. He's using her address to get his grandfather into a nursing home. She agrees to allow James to use her address in exchange for free babysitting.
He says it's because he doesn't live in New York.
Yeah.
But where does he live? Does he just commute far?
New Jersey is like one bridge away.
Really?
Yeah. So
I always thought they were kind of far away because they're different states.
I mean, New York's like on a border, like New York City or Manhattan's on the border. You just cross a bridge and then you get to New Jersey. So he just lives across a bridge. I mean, New Jersey is way cheaper. When we went to New York, the trip for Sophia, we stayed in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's way cheaper to stay over there. So, anyways, she falls asleep, and then James takes Mikey on a road trip.
He didn't even like write down on a post-it note or something like, "Oh, I took your child."
No, but she was so tired. He thought because she fell asleep, and he picked her up, and then put her in the bed, and she was still sleeping, like she never woke up.
Yeah,
she was like knocked out. James takes Mikey to the airport, where James is a part-time flight instructor. They meet up with Karen, and he and Mikey check out her chest. Afterwards, they go and see Grandpa. When they get home, Molly punches James in the face. She's furious he took Mikey without asking. Then James helps her take a splinter out, and she starts to find him charming. It's kind of funny. Like, she does like him, but she doesn't really like him, you know?
Yeah, I think it's funny.
What do you think of the scene where, I don't know, where they're both checking out Karen's chest?
No.
And the line, he's like, are you thinking the same thing I'm thinking? And he says, lunch. I thought that word's funny. Next we see him.
Because he's a baby. He just thinks that.
He just thinks it's food, right? Yeah. Next we see a montage because he was staring at her chest. The baby was. Like, he couldn't, like, he was transfixed, at least the way it looked. He was just looking like in shock, like, whoa. He says, those things come in different sizes. That's his first line. Next we see a montage of Mikey getting bigger and hanging out with James. Molly's mom sets her up with Harry, an accountant. And he comes over and James and Mikey dislike him immediately. Mikey even pulls off his toupee. Before their date, James tells Harry that Molly is a very liberal woman and hates when men do chivalrous things. On the date, Molly pays for dinner, the movie, the taxi, and even opens the door for Harry. At the end of the date, Harry goes in for a kiss and she rejects him. When she gets home, James and Mikey are asleep together and the house is a disaster. Next day, Mikey meets up with some of his friends and he learns that there's such a thing called a daddy. He decides that he's going to ask James to be his daddy. Later at the house, Molly does a sexy dance for Mikey. Huh?
He's basically just like holding auditions in his mind.
Yeah. He's like, maybe James would be a good daddy. Maybe James is my daddy. Later at the house, Molly does a sexy dance for Mikey to get him to eat some food, and James comes in and dances with her. James asks her to come and sign some papers for his grandpa to move into the new nursing home. They go and move Grandpa into his new room. To thank Molly, James takes her flying. That scene is kind of funny because she's doing the sexy dance. And then Mikey, he says in the background, he's like, I'm still not eating it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that night they put Mikey down and begin to make out. Before it goes any further, Molly has a daydream and thinks about James and how he would make a terrible father. Then she stops everything and sends him home.
Thing about the dream is, though, that like all her children in her dream are like happy. They're just poor.
Just poor, yeah.
Yeah, but they're all happy. Like, this is like the only imagination where they're all like actually happy.
Right. Yeah, it's true, right? And he loves everyone, right?
Yeah.
And they love each other.
Yeah, everyone like cares about each other in the thing. They're just poor.
And that was enough to say, nah, we gotta go home, buddy. We can't be making out. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. How everybody actually is happy. So really, she's not about the happiness. She's about the money. No, just the security, I guess it comes to having because they were eating out of the dumpster, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think she wants to live that life, even if everybody's happy. Molly's boss demands that she go to Albert's office and do his books. She doesn't want to, but she has to.
She's forced.
She goes and he turns on the charm again. He has to see Mikey. She tells him to go over to meet him if he wants to. Later that night, Albert comes over while James is babysitting. He tells James that he's Mikey's real father. And James says that's not true because Molly was artificially inseminated. They get into an argument and it gets physical. Then Molly gets home and James tells Molly he doesn't want Albert seeing Mikey. She says Albert is successful and would be a great father for Mikey. They argue and before he leaves, he goes and says goodbye to Mikey. Just two scenes. First off, John Travolta was a way bigger guy and much younger. He would have just knocked him out, right? If they really were fighting. And then secondly, she doesn't get it. He's been a terrible father.
Yeah, like he literally moved into an apartment on his own, away from his children.
Right, who were like 9 and 12 years old at the time or something like that.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. This is more about like the security thing.
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't think she actually cares when she's looking. It doesn't make sense because when she's looking for someone, she's not just looking for, even if the guy is rich, like Harry, who's like a businessman, she still is like, oh, he's a terrible person, so like he won't work. But this guy is also a terrible person, but he has money and security. But then like the person who would be a really good father that just doesn't have money is like also out of the question.
Yeah.
So like it wouldn't make sense. Like she's trying to find this perfect guy, and Albert is clearly not that, but apparently he's just perfect.
I don't know. And she wants to do that, right?
It just doesn't make sense for this story.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, back in the day, not that 89 was back in the day, but like hundreds of years ago, people didn't marry because of love or happiness. They married out of security, right? To be taken care of.
But she would have just gone with any of the other businessmen that she was like interviewing / dating earlier.
That's true. And the other thing is she's an accountant. She makes good money.
Yeah.
Like she has a good job. You know what I mean? She has a nice home. She's not rich, but she's well off. You know what I mean? They're not going to be eating out of a dumpster, even if he didn't work.
Yeah.
She was still having a good job. They're able to afford what they have now with her only being the one working. So Molly dresses up Mikey because they're going to go see Albert at his office today. Well, the meeting goes terribly. Albert says he can't be a father right now. Molly gets angry and she and Mikey tear up the joint and leave. Now she realizes he's not going to be a good dad. Like, come on.
Like, we knew that beforehand. He's going through a selfish phase, and she's like, a selfish phase? That's wonderful for my freshly birthed child.
Yeah. The other thing is, it's been what? Maybe Mikey's 2. So it's been 3 years since she got pregnant, you know? It takes like 9 months. So you're like, the guy's still a jerk. What? Nothing's changed. What do you think was going to be different? Yeah. And she was so excited to have Mikey meet him, and then it goes terrible. Later, Grandpa's nursing home calls Molly to tell her that he's being belligerent. She takes Mikey and they go off to the nursing home. She leaves Mikey with Grandpa to settle things with the admin. It's the biggest mistake in the whole world. Grandpa has dementia. Yeah. You're going to leave the baby with Grandpa?
That makes no sense.
I know that
you could have left him with like another staff member or just taken him with you. Why wouldn't you just take him with you?
There was a staff member there, but he was going to leave. You know, you don't know he's not taking care of your baby. Of course, take the baby with you. I just thought that was ridiculous. Anyway, she goes to the office and irons things out and makes it so that Grandpa can stay. James comes in and thanks her for helping Grandpa, but things are awkward between them. Unfortunately, as predicted, Grandpa bounces and leaves Mikey alone. Mikey sees a taxi and thinks it's James and goes after it. He goes outside and gets into a car that's being towed. The tow truck drives off with Mikey in the back. James and Molly chase after him. Then Mikey gets out of the car and starts running in the street. That part's kind of scary, huh? It doesn't look like he's actually running in the street. I know it's probably like camera work, but there are cars flying by, and it's this one kid who's just there by himself. James and Molly get to him before he gets hurt.
I feel like that would have happened before. Like a toddler who's maybe just in their car seat, they just like unpress the buckle and then open the door. Like they know how to open a door. How does this not happen more often with like kids running out of car?
That's why they have those child safety locks in the back seats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they started doing that a long time ago so that way you couldn't get out. But there's no reason to have a child safety lock unless something happened, right? Yeah, that's so someone said we should do this because babies keep getting run over because they're like jumping out of cars. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, so I think, unfortunately, that's probably something that did happen. Anyway, James Molly gets to him before he gets hurt. Then Mikey calls James Dada. That's his first word of the whole movie, right? James and Molly kiss. And then we're back to the in utero and more sperm.
I would have been more upset if I was Molly. Like, imagine you're a single mother and then some taxi driver gets called dad for his first word. Right. Like, that's just so sad.
Maybe he must have said other words, but they never played it. Where you're like, yeah. No, but it's not just some taxi driver. James was like his best friend. That was his dad.
I know, but still, like, she literally, like, kicked him to the curb and then he gets the first word. That's so unfair. But she's like a single mother throughout this whole thing. She's the one who's losing all the sleep, not him.
Yeah, that was your first word, Dada. Sophia's
Wasn't
first
it
word.
like papa or something?
I don't remember. Something. But it was dad. It was a dad. I won. Sophia said mama first. We heard Sophia go, mama, mama. And I'm like, I don't know what she said. Then your mother said, she said mama. And I'm like, no, she didn't. Because I was lying. But of course, I admitted to it at the end. Yes, she did. Anyways, then a new baby sister is born in the mid-credit scenes. And she talks too. Setting up for the sequel. The end. Funny movie. I liked it a lot.
I thought he was very funny. Mikey.
Yeah. What was your favorite part?
I like when he has that conversation with James and then she overhears it on the baby camera thing.
Oh, yeah.
That is funny. Because he's like trying to be serious and then the baby's like kind of getting it, but like kind of is.
Yeah. Because he's a baby. All right. Could this movie still be made today?
I don't know. Maybe not.
No. All right. So what did you find problems with?
The whole like artificial insemination thing, that's not like a problem, but how everyone reacted was kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Like no one even tried to ask her like, oh, why would you do that? Like no, everyone's just like, are you a lesbian? Like what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that was I guess when people get artificially inseminated, I guess the first thing that they would guess is that the person's a lesbian or something like that.
But they don't even ask like, oh, why? Like why would you do that like right now after talking so much about how you don't want to marry someone and stuff like that? Why all of a sudden would you, like, no one cares about her. They're just like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a mystery. Do you think, I mean, if someone's like, hi, I was artificially inseminated, I'd be like, oh, okay. I probably wouldn't say anything. I definitely wouldn't ask.
No, but it's her mother.
I think her mother's upset about the whole situation. Like, she just wants her to be married already, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Oh, yeah. And they said for that same part, they said like, oh, that's also for like ugly girls.
So yeah, I guess okay. I can see that's messed up. Like only ugly women get artificially inseminated.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
They said the R word. It was actually Mikey who said the R word.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a baby. I guess you can excuse him for it. No. Inappropriate. Go ahead.
And then the cheating situation, I think it's her fault because it's all like the whole story. Well, it's both of their fault, obviously.
Right.
But the whole story, they're like, oh, he's such a terrible person. Like, he's so terrible. But no one, like, holds her accountable. And she doesn't even hold herself accountable. Like, she's perfectly fine throughout the movie. She's still, like, the best person. Like, oh, feels so bad for her. And you should, because she's obviously, like, a single mother and, like, has to deal with this horrible man. But she also cheated.
True. But no, yeah, 100%. Even if he leaves this wife. And she doesn't hold
herself accountable at all. Or no one does.
She's proactively trying to get him to leave his wife to be with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's as guilty as he is. Definitely.
And no one cares about it in the whole story.
Right.
The whole story is just like, only Rona knows. Her.
Only Rona, her best friend.
And her best friend kind of like encourages her.
No, her best friend says, leave that dude. That dude's a garbage can. I think the only person that knows that she and Albert are together, other than Albert and her, of course, is Rona. I don't think her mom knows. Obviously, that's why she made the lie about the artificial insemination.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of weird, though, because she kind of skates by when she really is trying to wreck his home, right? She really wants him to get divorced.
And he has children.
He has children. But he's the garbage pail, too, because he's going to do whatever he wants.
Obviously, I'm not saying that he's, like, innocent. Less at fault or anything. Right. I'm just saying she's not innocent.
Yeah.
And they kind of, like, paint her that way.
Right, like the victim.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. What else?
I have a whole section about eating disorders.
Yeah, so that was a very short scene in the movie. There's a scene where Albert's wife, Beth, is seeing a psychiatrist because she's bulimic.
Yes.
But that's about it. And that's the reason he won't leave her.
Yes.
Why are you bringing that up? Like, it was such a tiny little part of the movie.
Because they say a lot of things about it. Some of the characters in the beginning, and I don't think they're very appropriate.
Go ahead.
Like, he says, like, oh, she's doing ballet because it won't make her fat. And it's like, maybe she thinks that way. Albert.
Okay.
And, like, maybe she thinks that way, but, like, why is he not saying, like, oh, she can do it, like, whatever she wants to do?
Right.
Like, why isn't he trying to, like, help her and make her see that, like, it's not that way? When Rona and Molly are talking. They're like, he won't leave her because she's bulimic. And then Rona starts laughing. And then the girl's like, don't give me that look. It's a serious disease. But she's also kind of laughing.
They like joke about it.
And it's like a joke that this woman is having an eating disorder and they think it's not serious. And there's also another thing that she says, which is like so extremely terrible, where she says, if only Beth would stop throwing up and then I could finally have like a perfect life.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Like, that's terrible.
Yeah, belittling, exactly. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
She's basically just saying, oh my gosh, stop your eating disorder already so that I can get with the man that I cheated with.
That can take away your husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. You're right.
Like, that's so extremely bad.
Yeah, that definitely would be, that wouldn't be in a movie now.
Like, it's just not appropriate.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's basically it.
It's funny that you keyed in on those three things, and I barely remember that. So, obviously, it's not the recap, because Beth is very little bit of importance. The only time I talk about Beth is in juxtaposition of her pregnancy being...
Like, from an affair.
Yeah, but I didn't realize any of that, and you keyed in on all those things, and it's kind of funny how I would have never thought about that at all.
Yeah, but I just thought, like, oh, this is so extremely inappropriate that they're acting this way. And then it's almost like a joke. Like, it's not really a big joke, but it's still a joke. And that's what, like, is not okay.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. All right, anything else about not being made today?
Nope.
All right, does it pass the Bechdel test?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the Bechdel test. It's a test to check for female representation in movies. Criteria 1, are there 2 or more named females?
Yes, there's Molly, her best friend Rona, and then Molly's mother.
All right. Criteria number 2, do the ladies talk to each other?
Yes.
Several times. There's a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Between.
Molly with Rona, Molly with her mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Criteria number 3, they talk about anything other than a man. You know,
when Molly talks to her mother, they're talking about like, oh, you need to get a husband. Hurry up and get a husband.
Mm-hmm.
When Molly talks to Rona, they're talking about Albert and like, oh, you shouldn't be with them. Or like, oh, he's a terrible person.
Yeah. But they had so many conversations that I'm kind of shocked that it didn't. But if you say you don't think they have, then they did not.
And as much as Molly is the main character, so is Mikey. So she's always with a man, even though it's like a little tiny baby man.
That's true. All right, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to Papi Approved Movies.
If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app. And like our podcast on YouTube.
We put on an episode every Monday.
If you want to see extra podcast content, follow our TikTok at Papi Approved Movies.
If you want to suggest a movie for us to watch and critique,
email us at papiapprovedmovies@gmail.com.
That's papiapprovedmovies@gmail.com. No spaces, no caps.
We'll try our best to get to your suggestion. And remember, it has to be PG-13.
Next week, Sophia and I will be back and we'll be watching Stand By Me.
And I'll be back in 2 weeks to watch Ender's Game.
I'm Papi.
And I'm Natalie.
See you next time.
Bye!